Councillor Mark Ingle, you recently wrote a letter to 70 councillors in respect of the office block conversions. What was the purpose of writing that letter?
The purpose of writing the letter was as a part of an ongoing campaign that I've been pursuing for well over a year, of trying to persuade councils to think again before they use office block conversions in Harlow for their temporary accommodation. I've met with councils from London and outside London and successfully persuaded them to stop. I thought the Panorama programme of a week or so ago brought the issue back into the public eye, and that was an opportunity to renew the campaign and to approach councils that perhaps haven't been using office block conversions in Harlow and persuade them that as those councils that I've been successful with move their residents out, they don't fill the voids.
How will you know if councils are going to keep their promise? Because there's no written contract here, and as you say, these are verbal agreements, which the man once said, they're verbal agreements. So how are you going to ensure this happens?
Well, of course, we can monitor who's staying in these office blocks. I think programmes like Panorama and the increased awareness of the toxic mix of putting difficult to house tenants with all sorts of social problems together in a few large buildings in Harlow make it quite embarrassing for councils to continue to use Harlow now. So we'll be watching to see how and when those buildings become empty.
There are some who feel that this has become a political tug of war, game of football between yourself, the leader of Harlow Council, and the MP, Robert Halfon. Is there anything Robert Halfon said, whether it's in the Palace of Westminster or whether it's with ourselves, anything that you agree with and anything you disagree with?
There's much I agree with Robert Halfon. When he spoke about the devastating effect it's having on our town centre and the increased pressure on our community services, I agree with him wholeheartedly. When he spoke about the unfortunate living circumstances that some of these residents find themselves in, I agree with him. When he speaks about the need for something to be done, I agree with him. When he accepted in the interview with you, and I think it's brave of him to do this, when he accepted that the cause of this problem is poor government legislation, I agree with him. Where I disagree with him is when he starts to talk about this being a problem of Labour councils. He'll know from having read your journal that I've had success with Conservative-controlled Havering Council, Liberal Democrat-controlled Three Rivers Council, and Labour councils like Enfield in persuading them not to use Harlow for its temporary accommodation. And he doesn't need to look further than the Conservative-controlled Epping District Council and Broxbourne District Council, both of them Conservative-controlled, who are using office block conversions in Harlow for their temporary housing.
Do you think Harlow, in retrospect, it might be seen by other councils as a bit of a soft touch?
Well, it's not just Harlow, is it? I've met with the leader of Basildon who's experiencing the same problems. I've met with Croydon. I've met with councils across the southeast. This is not an issue faced by a few councils. This is a problem across the southeast, and it's a problem that's caused by government legislation and a problem that could be cured by government action.
But another point that Robert Halfon made was that he feels, and other people feel as well, that as Harlow Council should, if you've got someone like Temple Fields House and they're quoting 600 incidents in a year, that you should be in there day in, day out, laying down the law, making sure your officers are enacting, if there's incident antisocial behaviour, getting stuck in there.
Well, we have limited resources. The government's cut the council support grants by 60%. We do everything that we possibly can. But when Mr. Halfon's talking about us not taking action fast enough, he's talking about us not dealing with the symptoms of the problem. Symptoms of a problem that Mr. Halfon was a part of. He was at the very heart of government when permitted development became policy. He was in government when the local housing allowance cap, which put a limit, was frozen so that London councils couldn't actually afford to find temporary accommodation within those borders. He's been a part of government that's introduced universal credit, which has massively increased the demand for temporary accommodation. So he's criticising us for not dealing with the symptoms of a problem that he has been at the very heart of causing. What we need to do is to deal with the cause of the problem. We'll do everything we can to deal with the symptoms, but let's deal with the causes first.
Because you agree that you need to solve this problem, you know, for all the good work that is going on in Harlow regarding regeneration and renaissance, the shadow of the office blocks casts a big shadow, isn't it? And if you are on, you know, there is little old dust, but if you're on Panorama, you know, people go, oh, Harlow this and Harlow that, and that's bad for business, bad for investment, and bad for the feel-good factor in the town.
It's not a news story that we want to see out there, because it's not. We believe that people in Harlow should be housed in decent accommodation. The very essence of Harlow as a new town was to provide decent accommodation, and some of these office blocks fall well short of that. So yes, I'm more than happy to work with anybody, including Mr. Halfon. I saw his offer in the interview that he did with you. Very happy to work with him. I am prepared to clear my diary on any Monday or Tuesday. I work as a teacher on Wednesday, Thursdays and Fridays, but any Monday or Tuesday, if he wants to arrange a meeting with himself and me, or himself and me, and better still the minister who's responsible for permitted developments, I'll be there.